Okay. Good evening to everybody, and thank you all for coming. I'm Niall Hobhouse, and I'm the rather feeble stand-in for poor Peter Carl, who was stuck in Cambridge all day because the train service was cancelled. The buses weren't running. We couldn't get him a taxi. He's really been struggling, and thank you. I think turning off the air conditioning is a good idea. So he's very, very sad not to be here tonight. But he has already promised me a text about what he was going to say, which we will publish on Drawing Matter in a week or two. It's wonderful for us to have Julia and Peter here. I feel it's kind of the culmination of a long journey. We came to an eccentric arrangement by which they would support our summer school for 16 and 17-year-olds on an annual basis by generously giving us drawings from the archive in Germany. And this is the 10th year of the summer school. So and Peter has come most years and talked to the students, which has been fantastic for them. Also wonderful to have Mark Dorrian here, who was very, very much part of my introduction to Peter's drawings, and has written very extensively for us and elsewhere about the drawings. We're going to just try and have a discussion about the drawing practice within Wallace+Wilson, and how it translates into architecture. And I think my only job really is to keep the conversation going back and back and back to the drawings themselves. I hope you've all had a chance to look at the exhibition, which will continue over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. What Matt and Kendra have tried to do is sort of trace a thread between the very, very early drawings from the AA period all the way through to contemporary projects in Albania, to find symmetries and connections throughout that period, or throughout the whole period of work. We also on our website, literally I think today, published a wonderful piece by Peter, which is part of our journal issue on storytelling, which Mark edits and which I recommend to all of you. And also earlier in the week, a collection guide of all the material that we have from the studio, which is a way of helping researchers who are coming to us blind navigate their way around the collection guide. I'm going to...
okay. Could I launch in and talk about some drawings? Well, do you want to say something, Mark?
No, go ahead, Peter. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I think what one must say is that we're sitting here as Bolles and Wilson, so Julia and myself, and I must apologize for an imbalance in the exhibition. There's more than 100 drawings around this room which are all mine, and there are 2 drawings on this table which are Julia's, which is really unfair.
I think it's okay. I don't draw.
This, I may say, is a problem we've had with Julia before. It's very hard to get her to acknowledge her own role, and it's something we would love to come out of today. Is a clear understanding of how the team works.
Oh.
We used to
On you
use
go, Peter.
we used to use the analogy from Flann O'Brien of the Irish policeman and his bicycle, that the Irish policeman had been bumping over Irish roads for a number of years, and there was an exchange of molecules with each bump, and so at the end the policeman was half bicycle and the bicycle half policeman.
Okay, well that
I think me being Anglo-Saxon and Julia coming from a German background, there's been a similar transfer.
how do you like that analogy?
Well, we talked about that before, so it's not new. So
Okay,
I'm not
okay.
surprised. It's actually a nice analogy.
I like
It's
it
sort
very
of,
much.
yeah,
I like it
so
much.
I like
Peter.
it that it's sort of maybe I'm sort of half Anglo-Saxon. Feels good to be here.
But I don't feel that Peter is half German yet.
I'm getting there. I'm reading Thomas Mann's Magic Mountain in German at the moment.
Okay, well in that case,
Yeah.
Yes.
And he has been reading it for months. This is fat, huh?
sorry Peter, I
Okay,
interrupted.
I
Off
just
you go
wanted to
again.
maybe elaborate that me being Australian, I think landscape is a theme we might come to at some point. Just a very brief history. We both came out of the AA. I mean, I landed at the AA and did my final 2 years there in the studio of Elias and Galis, and then was a teaching assistant of Elia and Rem. And Julia did a postgraduate course at the AA with Rem and Elia as well. So I think that's the point where we came together. Julia came from, can you see this drawing?
Yes.
Julia came from Karlsruhe, which is the school of Egon Eiermann in Germany. Really precise drawings. She was the star student of Rem's course that year. This is her diploma project.
Maybe Egon Eiermann is, you know, probably the Kaiser Wilhelm Gedächtniskirche in Berlin, which is a very nice church. And in Karlsruhe we learn to look for the smallest module in a building, let's say a tile in a bathroom. So, and then we would work out sort of on this module to multiply it and then sort of make a building from that. So it's very tight. No? And you couldn't actually draw a room or build a room where the tiles would have to be cut.
Right.
That was sort of a no-go. No? So just to explain this sort of this method of designing in Karlsruhe. It's very particular.
And
if
this
you look
is
at
directly
this,
reflected
yeah,
in this.
yeah, this I think it's reflecting in this as well as Rem and Elia. I mean, you can see the influence, the urban villa, the sort of different typologies here, the stark connecting building here, and then maybe the cypress trees, maybe they're yours. I mean, they come from Peter.
They come from Italy.
Yeah, and then it's on one of the Grachten in Amsterdam, and if you see this funny head here, this is sort of a grotto where you could drive in with a little boat, and then you come up here, and then you sort of go into whatever building you
I'm going to do something very bold and turn this round because that's the right way round for the audience.
yeah, of course, yes, yeah. But I mean, in Karlsruhe, if you had done something like that, you know, this funny bald head there was where you drive in, like the grotto entrance, that would have been an
So
absolute
what
no-go.
you're saying is that I corrupted you when you arrived in
Of
London.
course you did.
Was it? And it was Peter who corrupted you, not Rem or the AA.
No. I mean, this was at the time. This was certainly very much influenced by Rem and Elia. I mean, you can see that, I suppose. And the corruption came later.
Yeah, can I ask Julia, the relationship between Ram and Unger was always sort of interesting and to me, and I, something that I never really quite grasped the dimensions of. And I'm wondering, how do you're looking at the project? How do you see what you did with them sort of fitting with that, and in a sense with the things like the IBA, the reconstruction of the city kind of discourse.
That came later.
Yeah.
That was
There was a
Quite
rumour
complicated.
when Reminelia
Yeah.
first formed OMA that the OM was from OM Ungers. 'cause
Yes, and well, that's what I had heard.
Mm.
Yeah. Interesting.
well.
Okay, but this is a drawing by Julia as well. I think influenced by sensuous colours, not by.
Yeah, that's
but
one of my, maybe the only drawing. No, there's sort of one or two more, but there's a little story to it. Should I tell you?
Yeah,
It's okay.
please.
So, okay. There was once Jenny Lowe who came from Australia to.
she was your
To
teacher, was
London.
she not?
Adrian Hawker's
Okay.
teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a friend of hers brought back a sort of a bit of shocking pink silk from China, and she didn't know what to do with it. She was not a pink person. I mean, not a bit. She was very sporty, very strong, and she asked me, "Can you think of something?" And I said, "Yeah, let's think about it." And so I thought I design and make for her a very geometric piece of clothing, like this jacket, loosely based on a kimono. And this is actually the drawing for the pattern. It's the actual concept drawing. And the main body was based on the Sunday Times.
Proportions.
The proportions, not because of the content, but just because it seemed right, sort of, in proportion for her. And it was pink on the one side and black on the other side, black silk. And it was the sleeves, you can see here is a quarter of circle, and here it's a rectangle. And the front bit is also a triangle, and the other one is half a circle. And there are two strategically very important buttons. It's here in the armpit. There's black baubles, and they're on the outside and on the inside. And then you can actually fold and do whatever you like, and you can create. You can see it here on this line. You can create a lot of options of geometrical shapes or leftover shapes. And yeah, that was the idea, and that's how it was made. So, yeah,
So it could
But
become
it's-
entirely black.
it can become entirely black or entirely
Entirely
pink, except this little corner there. But yeah, this was a drawing quite typical. I mean, it's precise, it's measured, it's. I think it's the statue or the statue of Jenny. It presents quite well. It's her. Sort of knowing her, one would recognize her, but it's the opposite to what Peter does.
Well, it's pencil and it's smudged. But I
It's
think
nice, yeah.
basically there's a exchange of sensibilities. And from Julia, I learnt exactitude in drawing, really, really precise drawing. And I learned from her how to work with a 6H pencil, which is so hard and so sharp it cuts the paper. And I purposely put these ones in. I hope they're not reflecting. These are drawings of mine for one of our first German buildings. It's a kindergarten. Very, very sharp line drawings, very precise, gridded, with little numbers all over it. The little numbers were actually instructions for people in the office what pen size to use when tracing this. So and I was really very taken by this exactitude that I picked up from Julia. But then there's the question.
Which you feel you wasn't a priority before.
Well, I think before my natural drawing style is much rougher, so chiaroscuro or sfumato or something. So things like this, the Clanderboy Bridge, which was a very precise, perspectively constructed bridge with the plan here where it's projected up from, but then the background it's sort of 100% atmosphere.
But some of the preparatory drawings for the Clanderboy series are wonderfully precise.
Yeah, that's so how I draw very small, and that's how these evolve. So And there's the exactitude of the construction, which I think is architectonic, and then there's the atmosphere of the presentation, which is the smudging. I think.
Yeah, sorry, Peter.
I think well, just one quick sentence. Yeah. And because I'm so fast at doing this, poor Julia has put her pencils down. So I think, and we're a very well-functioning team. And to show how we work together, and this is Julia. This is in the National Library of Luxembourg, which we finished a few years ago. Julia and the head librarian discussing some question of number of tables or something. Me in the background drawing. Maybe I can get it quickly. Oh, there, that's it. Me in the background doing a scribble for
what the tables might look like.
Or their seats. So that's the scribble drawing on a construction drawing, and that's the seat that involved. So basically, I'm sort of behind the scenes person, and Julia's the front of the office.
But then, Julia, do you sweep in and say that's not going to work?
Well, that's a difficult issue. It is actually.
I'll never be able to persuade
changing the subject.
No.
I'll never be able to persuade the head librarian to accept seats like that.
It's actually declined, no? But I mean, it's like that. I mean, Peter keeps saying that, and I think he's right. The one who draws is the first one to develop something. He has something on paper, and then everyone else is only has the role to sit back or to stand and say, this is not right, or this should be changed, or so. This is how it goes.
But do you?
It's okay.
Do you?
To us, but it's okay.
Do you discuss between the two of you how it might go before he starts drawing? I'm sure you
Well,
do.
we have sometimes meetings in the office, and we say, let's sit together and brainstorm, so just sit together and throw things in the air and talk, this building, what's the neighborhood, what's the urban setting and all that. And we sit there and everyone says something and all contribute and all that. And then Peter gets upset and says, how can you design like that? He says, it doesn't work. I mean, you have to draw, you have to draw it. And in the end, he's right. I mean...
Thank you.
So do people in the office draw when they're having these discussions? I mean, are you drawing together
No.
at any point? Or?
One or two people in the office pick up pens, but I get upset
Yeah.
because most of the desks in the office haven't got a pen on them.
Right.
So I mean, how can you discuss something if you can't?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Can I ask the way your years at the AA and the way in which the way in which you developed or transformed across that period. I mean, it would be interesting to hear you both talk a little bit about that, because I think there were quite, significant shifts and adjustments at various points in relationship to, the work that you were doing or thinking about, but also I suppose what other people were doing at the AA at the time as well, and how you felt you were sort of positioned within the representational ecosystem, as it were.
It was enormously competitive with
Yeah.
Nigel Coates, myself, and Zaha.
Yeah.
Maybe Peter Salter, and there's a few other people as well, and we were all really competing, and Alvin Boyarsky was like a coach, pushing each of us along, giving us exhibitions. But the way one drew, I'm wearing this T-shirt because this is my first, I think, really important drawing, which is lost. It was sold to a collection which no longer exists. It's the Waterhouse.
Yeah.
But Neil has the work-up drawings for the Waterhouse. Thanks, Matt. And these, one has to look at them on the table. They're the work-up drawings for this very romantically rendered object.
Where did the Waterhouse come from? how did you begin to work in the
I
Water
just
House?
sat down and drew it, actually. I mean, there was no brief, there was no reason.
Yeah.
I was a teaching assistant to Rem and Elia. And one just, I think as a student, I produced very little. So on graduating, one felt one was in this context, one had to produce something.
Yes.
So there's the Waterhouse, and the one before that, the Birdhouse, which is
Yeah.
in the V&A collection. I consider those to be my first two serious pieces of architecture.
Yeah.
Our student work was all provocation. We were trying to get up the noses of our teachers, Leon Creer or whoever.
There's a lot of mechanical stuff in here.
Yeah, it's a 19th century
You can see
technology.
those.
Yes,
Very
yes,
nice.
yes, no, I love this.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah. But it feels that you have a little bit of a foot in the world of Gaston Bachelard and the elements and the air in the birdhouse and the water in the waterhouse, and yeah.
That's very good. Yeah, we'd done studios with Dalibor Vasily, and we picked up Bachelard from Dalibor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Bachelard and surrealism. It was,
Yeah.
and basically the AA was sort of putting in all these ideas, but once one left, one was on one's own. One had to sort of put them out.
Yeah.
Following the Waterhouse, this is the first drawing Niall bought from us. We call it Waterhouse 2 because the Waterhouse was pumping water from a mountain stream into a canal, and then this was further down the canal. My intention was to follow the canal all the way to a city, and it never went further. But this is called the public convenience. There's obviously public toilets, and here the plan you can recognize men's and women's. Here the same plan type mirrored, but the use denied, so the toilets are solid blocks. I mean, it's obviously highly didactic. It's very strange sort of ritualistic things about the road. This implies a road here,
Yeah.
kiosk, one goes up, one uses the toilet or goes to this side where you have to invent your own codes of use. And it was the sort of drawing one did at the time. But and this style is sort of pencil smudging style, and it caught on at the AA. I think we've discussed that.
Yeah. 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 And was the way that this is drawn sort of, tied up in some way with the idea of the program, of the fluidity and the steamy nature.
And there are a few sort of splashes and
Yeah.
gurgles here, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a sort of implied red Cartesian frame. There's some drawings at the back on the table of where the red Cartesian came from, which was a house I saw in Gozo near Malta when on holiday. But I think the important thing is it's drawn in isometric. And I've yet to find anybody in our office who can produce an isometric digitally. And the isometry is such a good drawing technique because the elevations are true, or they're true in one dimension, but it stretches everything diagonally.
Yeah.
And the drawing techniques like the isometric here, or the perspective for this bridge, this is the very first drawing or workup drawing for that. Really precise lines, the bridge in perspective, projected up from a plan. Yeah, and I taught my students, I forced my students to work a whole term on one big sheet of paper with the plan at the bottom projecting up to make it a perspective. And I really like this sort of cage of wires in perspective, and then you could slide an elevation or a section out sideways. So this is me sort of projecting the bridge, the Clan de Bois bridge up there. I think there's another one there, which is the plan and section, a lot of little doodles around the edge, sort of testing ideas for a little footing of the handrail. And then when that's reached this stage, one does these sort of atmospheric drawings at the end of really, what does one call it? Autumnal.
Do you think that form of projection, Peter, is affecting how the architecture is conceptualized or how it comes to be? Because it seems I mean, it's a little bit. It's obviously later when we'll probably talk more about the Japanese projects later. But it often seems to me that the actual formal qualities of the architecture, the way in which they're, the relationship between the parts are developed, they seem very integrated with a kind of graphic imagination almost in terms of how they're conveyed and shown.
I think the projection system is a language, and you have to be able to speak the language before you can use it as a generative tool. Perspective, I mean, about the time I was doing this, got a really bad name with Foucault sort of, as the sort of image of prison. But for us it was a sort of image of release, because it sort of shot off all these tangents in every different direction. I mean, I get really upset in the office talking about people doing renderings on the screen, because they look at that drawing, where's the vanishing point?
Yes.
And they have no idea. Their computer knows, but they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about to. It's like an athlete training your brain to be able to slide up and down all these conceptual lines or structural lines.
Yeah. How did you feel about the work of something like Michael Webb was doing with the Temple Island?
And Temple Island is just incredible.
Yeah.
And that was conceptually way out of my league.
But Mark, are you making sort of a connection between the style of drawing and the actual architecture?
Yes.
That is
Yes.
the result?
Yes.
Or
yes.
which is the concept?
Yeah. I think I am. I mean, in the sense that I can imagine lots of different. There's a certain kind of quality of space and form that's already there in a way within the kind of projections that are being used within the drawings. And it's just, I mean, I suppose it's a question about how the way we draw is affecting how we're seeing the architecture and how we're imagining it. And I also think it's partly to do with a kind of figurative quality that the architecture often has or seems to have, which I mean, in the Clandy Boy drawings, which are the kind of landscape drawings and the flattened plan drawings, which are on the wall over here, one's often seeing the array of you show the array of small constructions in the gatehouse, the bridge, etc., and sometimes they're in the positions in the landscape. Sometimes they're sort of lined up beside one another as a kind of family group.
I think the figure in a landscape is a really good compositional metaphor.
Yeah.
I was looking at one of my sketchbooks yesterday with Kendra here, and we came across a quote, I think it was from Nabokov, where he wrote, "All your metaphors are mongrels."
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's what Julia would say about my metaphors.
Well, so I'm clear, what is, when you talk of your frustration about colleagues in the office not being able to produce isometrics, what is lost at that moment, do you feel, in the design process? Or is it just a frustration on Peter's part, or is there a real gap in the capacity to visualize things?
I mean, first of all, when you work on the computer, none of us, neither Peter nor I, would ever try to draw on the computer.
Right.
There's no way. So, but when we can watch the people who are able to draw, and the thing is that the computer sort of works in layers, and they're two-dimensional, and in the end you have to. Yeah, I mean, you have to put all these things together in your head to work in a meaningful way, but they usually don't. I mean, they work in 2 dimension and cut and all that. Even though by now you have sort of 3-dimensional models, we have to produce as well, sort of building information, modeling, etc. But it's not in the end not really sort of 3-dimensional thinking. And Peter is, I mean, he actually, when he draws, he thinks.
Yeah,
And,
it's thinking around the corner.
Yeah, around the corner and in 3 dimension. And I mean, we are not yet sure how we think. Whether we think in images or words or when I talk,
both
I
together.
also like whatever is,
watching,
whoever is
exactly.
sitting there, it has an influence on how I develop thoughts. We don't know yet. I mean, it's fascinating. People are actually researching that. So if you are on the computer, if you work on the computer, and if you had the 3-dimensional model in your head, you couldn't work on a computer because it doesn't work. The thing does sort of like that. So there is a glitch between that.
We're still unresolved.
I think so. I think AI would probably solve it. I don't know.
He's
So-
not.
But I mean, Peter just thinks 3-dimensional from the first go, and that's, of course, it's.
I'd love to talk about some of the Albanian projects in precisely this context, actually.
One has enormous respect for people who work digitally, and they have skills which we know we'll never master. But I think, and we see ourselves as sort of enhancing those skills. Like this is a computer printout which I watercolored, which I was very, very happy with because it turns into a very precise drawing.
And tell us the role of the drawing in the development of the project.
Well, I think for this I did a hand drawing of the elevation, then they put it, or also of a plan, because one plans at the same time as doing elevations. And is it actually, well, parts of it are my hand drawing around the edge, but the circles, one can't draw that accurately by hand. So basically, I mean, I'm giving sort of form or texture, material and life to the digital drawings. Let's find something else. And this is a hotel that was built in Albania. I started off with this drawing of mine for the elevation, which I was really, really hoping we could build that. And sort of like a sort of woven texture. This is a similar drawing, sort of me setting up a myriad of lines by hand. It's sort of mind-bogglingly brain-curdling work to draw all that. But the hotel owner, the client, didn't like the A-frame windows, which are the essence of this.
Which were, in a way, the point of the project.
Yeah, exactly. So the windows became standard rectangular. That's a drawing looking at the possible roof terrace where the A-frames are still there, but the windows are getting wider. And that's it as built, where the windows are simply horizontal. But then we snuck into, where is it? There's another drawing of it finished. That's it finished. The windows are really boring rectangular. There's 2 hotel rooms and opening or ventilating panels between. But these windows are not parallel to the facade. It's a declination. It's what Stephen Greenblatt writes about, Lucretian declination. Then the windows is sort of sailing off on its own trajectory away from the facade.
And that's consistent across the whole
Yeah,
building.
across the whole facade. And then this declination produces a slit on the side where we have an LED lighting slit. I've never seen the lights on. I've been told it's really spectacular. Suddenly the pattern we were looking for at the start is here, sort of beaming over Tirana. And
Tell us more about how these Albanian projects are developed, because I always understood, and I think that you simply sent a drawing on the fax machine to Tirana and then went a year later to see how the building
It's iterative.
looked.
There's a lot.
There's
There's
lots
back and
of backs
forward.
and forwards. But the technical drawings are all being done in Tirana.
Yeah, we in Korça, the town where we won the urban master plan, we worked with young architects. They were fantastic, but they've since emigrated to America. I told them to buy a gun. But the fee the Albanians pay and there's no way we can put German people on an Albanian project. So I told them, for their fee, you get a hand drawing. They said, that's fine, we'll find young Albanians to work with you. So we developed this method of me doing the concept hand drawn, sending it to them. They digitalize it. I get back 30 renderings and get my red felt tip and correct the renderings. It goes back and forward like that 3 or 4 times. It's a bit like being a 19th century architect. And then I go to the site sometimes, and one can. The building is not as regulated in Albania as here, so drawings are not legal documents. So one can go on the site and do a detail one-to-one, do it on the wall in a pencil, and it gets built. And for the culture projects, because it's a smaller town, Tirana is sort of big town, sort of tall towers. And for the culture projects, we discovered that it's a developing country. They can't afford sort of high technology. They can't afford sort of LESI lights or something, but they can make things themselves, and there are handcrafts there which would be unaffordable here. So for lighting in Albania, we saw they were very good at Christmas lighting with LED strips. So we get them to make an MDF box, hang it from the ceiling, and put LED lights inside it. It worked really well. We did a town hall like that, lit that way with our own sort of tacked together lighting systems.
And do you see that? Do you see this way of working as a relief or an alternative to working within a very structured continental procurement system?
You can say that, yes. You could say that.
I describe culture as my playground, because in Germany, one draws something and somebody says, yeah, but the fire escapes have to work this way, that way. So it was a great relief to start working there. And we're now working on bigger projects. This was a tower that was my first sketch for the client in the coastal city of Flora. That didn't happen, but he's building another very similar one.
I was going to ask Peter, the clients, you're sending the hand drawings to the clients or to the
well, the client gets that and is very happy with it. And he can see it's a sexy drawing.
Yeah.
And that's as much as he asks for.
Yeah.
Well, and he knows that we're in partnership with the young architects.
Yeah. So I want to ask, do you think the hand drawings have a particular persuasive power in this context?
I think they do, yes.
Not everywhere.
One hopes they do, but sometimes the digital sort of kudos is expected, and we can't deliver that.
Mm-hmm.
This one, for example, this we call it Cathedral of Leaves. It's a public project. It's in a park in Kortrijk where we won the master plan competition. That's the sketch drawing, and that's it built with the frame, and the vines are now growing up. And I'm really, really sort of happy with these projects, because one sees here young mothers meeting in this shady space, with this old geezer saying, I come here every day or something. And these projects, they have a sort of a social dimension.
Do you feel like state architects or national?
Well, in Kortrijk, they called me city architect for a while, but there were some legal limitations there. That's another Kortrijk project. That's my first hand sketch. It's called the Palazzo Romeo, and our client's first name was Romeo. It's fantastic, and you can't let that slip. And that's built. It's almost exactly, looks almost exactly like that. And Kortrijk has become the #1 tourist destination for Albanian internal tourism. People go for the weekend there because it has all this wacky stuff from Bolles and Wilson, and it's up in the mountains and cooler than Tirana.
It's quite true. I mean, there was a time when hand drawings were really appreciated in competitions, and I wouldn't say often, but I like to do occasionally sort of a jury, sort of in an architectural competition. And when it's an interesting competition and when there's a good crew of sort of our colleagues, one can actually talk to and discuss the architecture. It's not always like that. And you actually notice that you can produce nowadays. You can produce renderings like so easily, almost like press a button.
Yeah, with AI.
And you notice how let's say the clients and the engineers and all that, they think it wonderful. And but I mean, you get increasingly doubtful about this because
it has no personality.
Yeah, it has no personality, no wit, no, and yeah, but it's difficult to cut across. But the good colleagues, we get together and we try to persuade then the clients to look closer, you know, and to look through this kind of glitz of huge renderings.
Yeah.
I mean, could we perhaps talk about the theatre drawings in that precisely that context?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
These
I only
ones.
see one of three that are partly hidden by the screen.
And those we describe those as being the last analog drawings that we produced as an office, Bolles and Wilson. They were very big because they were planning studies for the Wilhelmina Pier in Rotterdam. This is the Maas River, and that's the Rheinhaven, where the barges which went up the Rhine from Rotterdam were anchored. This is the Erasmus Bridge from Ben van Berkel, and as part of the same building project, we designed this quay. The quay is actually standing on legs in the water. It's much like the public convenience. It's a platform on legs. Having built, the quay is built, or this is built, the bridge watcher's house. This colonnade is built where you can walk along the top and watch the Rotterdam Marathon run past. These drawings we had the commission from the city planning office to orchestrate the square, the landing square, the traffic, and the sort of relationship to the river and the relationship between two urban zones. This administrative zone with a law court and a tax office, and then the Wilhelmina Pier there where Rem Koolhaas has built his tower. This one is built by Renzo Piano. Our quay extended up to there. We built a little tower of moving numbers there with LED boxes in it, which they threw away a few years ago because the Renzo Piano building extended its ground level cafe. So there's three of these drawings on the wall here. We drew them by hand. They're ink drawings, and the coloring is a technique we developed of just copying a gridded texture on our copy machine. One gets some moire stripes. If you copy it twice, you get the mixture of red and black. So we were able to imply this sort of really solid materiality by gluing these foil pieces on the drawing. So basically, and we made up our graphic system. The pink is also foil glued on. And the danger of this drawing style is you have the white cartridge paper on which the line work is printed. And when you put the foil on, you have to cut the edge, and the danger of cutting the paper is very high. And so we did this planning for the intersection, and the first building on this site was just a red blob because it's a sort of hinge between the two zones. And after this was accepted in the planning and the traffic engineers planned these streets, the pedestrian crossings we made red as well, which turned out to have a very strange consequence. In the Netherlands, when the road is red, it means that the cyclists have priority. So even if the traffic light is red, the cyclists have priority on our crossing. And after having done this master plan, they decided to build a theatre on this site. There's a corner site. So this drawing actually shows the Luxor Theatre. They did a competition with 5 architects, Rem Koolhaas, Herman Herzberger, Kees Christians, a couple of others, and us. We were the only non-Dutch, and we won the competition. The Dutch press were really upset, and they said, they wrote in the paper, it's a piece of German functionalism, which means that it actually worked. And it was explained to me that in Holland, you don't expect good architecture to actually work. But us being sort of good Germans, we actually designed a theatre which worked. And the working question was to do with delivery, because the site is almost too small for a theatre. the competition rules asked for a stage at first floor level. This is a theatre where they have visiting companies, lots of stage changes, and they needed to get an 18-meter delivery truck right next to the stage. Rem Koolhaas put his building in the water here, so he had a lot more space to play with, and he can do that. It's his city. Whoops.
Thank you, Mark.
That's good.
Herman,
So as you mentioned, Rem Koolhaas, the curse descended.
he's here.
He's here. He's with us.
And Herman Herzberger.
He's really with us, isn't he?
Herman did a theatre with a lifting platform to lift the truck up to stage level. But the theatre people had experience with that system, and you need a safety officer who's always there. And if you measured over 10 years, the cost of a safety officer is unaffordable. So we tackled the problem by taking a ramp through the foyers, driving the trucks out over the water, and then backing in next to the stage. It was a completely sort of lunatic idea, actually, but it meant that the turning circle of an 18-meter truck gave the building its geometry.
Very nice.
And the decision to present it, I mean, these were in effect the competition drawings, were they?
There was no competition. It was we were
You said it was
there was a competition for the Luxor, but these were the other two drawings which we can't see were pre-Luxor, and we did this one later, dropping the Luxor in.
okay.
But the decision to present it this way, in a way that a conventional rendering would have made very difficult. Tell us more about
Well,
that.
there wouldn't have been time to do a conventional rendering.
Okay.
We were presenting to a committee called the Quality Team, which were people from all over Europe, Hans Kohlhoff from Berlin, Mike Gier from Zurich. And we had to present on a wall to go into a room like this. So we didn't want to project. We wanted the drawings to be there, to have a presence and aura. This is why we did these big drawings.
Can you talk a bit about the? I mean, I suppose I want to ask about the presence or the quality of the individual building within an urban context or field. I mean, in a way, this is partly what this project is about, and the way that it's drawn, and the colours. The way that you develop the colours is, very much about the identification of this in the sense that dynamism that this this it becomes organised around this building with the truck going inside and the hinge point. And I was looking. I mean, it's in my mind a bit because I was looking at some photographs of the red bar in the sky in Kortrijk, and I was thinking the detailing of the apertures in the body, everything is very. There are no reveals in the detailing. Everything is is absolutely flat. And the way this, I suppose I'm getting to a point about. I think there's something about the quality of the contour and almost the graphic quality of the projects as a kind of graphic image in a way, and partly that's to do with the color, but I think it's to do with the way that things are detailed as well. So the bridge watcher's house, which is at the end here, the way that the different facades are treated with different materials and the different colors.
It's very graphic.
Yeah, so you have this sense of a kind of flat, almost wrapped surface all the time, and in a way the Luxor sort of feels like a kind of wrapped project as well, and just like the kind of graphic presence of these as within the city is very particular. I think
the two buildings you're describing have very different characters, which are generated from their context.
Yeah.
The Luxor, because there's water on both sides, it's sort of every side is front.
Yeah.
So we did the spiraling facade so that every facade was equal in weight, not a back of house and a front facade. I think the idea is with each scheme is to find a character.
Yeah.
And the word context, and we are from the generation where contextualism came into the architectural discourse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a modernist view of context was you have a flat field
Yeah.
and plonk an object in it, and you're meant to walk all around and see it from all sides.
Yeah.
And the towering courtyard, and that it relates to its context because it anchors a triangular square. And I like very much, and if I can call up my Australian ancestry, there's a story about the Aborigines when they're on walkabout, they're walking around. When they stop for the night, they put a stick in the ground. And the reason for the stick is to anchor the snake of chaos so things won't move while they're asleep. But I really like that idea of the pin, or it's a campanile in a European city. That's what we did in Corcho. We should put this pin in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. This is obviously one of the faces of the
Bridge Watcher's house. Yeah,
yeah. And one face is blue, isn't it? Blue tiles on one face.
No,
brick.
It's black on this side,
Black, yeah.
white on this
Okay,
side. This
yeah,
side
white,
is,
that's it, yeah.
and we describe this side as being like the Villa Savoy on Daddy Longlegs Villa Savoy.
Yeah.
But the reason for these splayed columns, which look really crazy, there's one column here, it's because we're building over the water, and there's a grid of columns under the quay.
Yeah.
And these columns only had particular points they could land.
Yes. Yeah.
So we basically there's a sort of hidden logic.
Yeah. And what happens with context whenever you kind of become the context, in the sense, like in the Albanian projects, where that you're in a way you're making, you're doing so much work there, and in a way I suppose the projects are they're not singular projects within Tirana or wherever, but they're adding to the sort of collection of.
In Tirana, they're towers. I mean, they're really big. Sort of, there it is, sort of ego of the developer.
Yeah.
In Kortrijk, because it's a historic city with this very beautiful fine-grained street system, 19th century houses, neoclassical houses in stone, cobbled streets. So we're really, the reason we won the competition, or the urban planning competition in Kortrijk, was because we respected this historical inheritance, and they wanted to marshal new construction so they wouldn't get tall buildings between the old villas. So in our master plan has sort of implied that and designated areas for new neighbourhoods which were meant to be networked, etc.
Whenever you're drawing the study of these facade treatments or the fenestrations or the kinds of things that you were showing us, Peter. I mean, is there a sense that obviously you're doing them in the context of what you've done before for this location, or they become a kind of series almost of pieces, almost inevitably, I suppose, because are you whenever you're working on one, is it being developed in consciously in relationship to?
I guess one has favored tropes that one returns to.
But they're quite different. I mean, there's of every project.
Yeah.
The one is a library.
Yeah.
The other one is a building from the Hodja, from sort of this history that has
communist modernism.
That has to be converted into a modern city hall, and so that's not one is the same as the other.
How much in contrast is this with your experience in Japan, which we haven't talked about?
Japan was a sort of huge revelation for us. I mean, we began our generation was talking about the Europeans were talking about the reconstruction of the European city, which is basically a response to wartime destruction. So we were very aware of Haussmann planning or German blocks. When we were asked to do a workshop in Japan, we discovered an urban matrix which we just didn't understand. It was like a sort of floating city, just totally fluid, and it gave us a whole new metaphor for describing organizational systems.
But with something which you then brought back with you.
We brought back it back, and we did for a while studies in Germany of the networked landscape where things seemed there was no magnetism holding functions together to be a city anymore. Things would just drop wherever the site was cheapest, because there were freeways which connected them, and you had internet connection. So the whole logic of a dense city seemed to have evaporated.
Is this the story you're telling a little bit?
On that book, that's
the
a
wonderful
sort of cognitive map of what we call the Euro Landschaft. We got into big trouble with the traditionalists in Germany. There's the Berlin Mafia, the sort of block gang, and they thought we were criminals working with the periphery, or talking about the periphery.
That's. No, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's of everything in the collection, it's the most requested item. It comes out for student groups who come, 3 or 4 times a month. It's partly, of course, the wonderful theatre of being able to unfold it in front of a audience.
Could you talk a little bit, Peter, about how this was drawn and
I'd love to hear more.
It's a notebook given to me by Akira Suzuki, who was our client for the Suzuki House in Tokyo. And it's a sort of concertina page which is just endless. And I think this, the idea of the episodic drawing was really intriguing. I didn't draw anything in it for a few years. Then I started
to distract you.
I started doodling at night, and it occurred to me that this sort of drawing was a bit like our derivs across the European landscape. So I've done little sketches from trains in Germany of fragments like a cooling tower or shopping centre or whatever, sort of high tension pylons.
So did you gradually? I mean, were you drawing things in a dispersed way, or
I think I sort of came back and sort of added more and more. I mean, I never really considered it complete.
What's the time span?
Yes, how long did it?
A couple of years, but I really like the way that some drawings go around the corner.
Yeah.
It's looking a bit more worn out than it used to be, Neil. Or your students. And then here's a menu from a digital program stuck in. Reflect, return, zin, put in, undump, view, type, advance, zoom, enough, swivel, tilt, move, perspective, hide yes, hide no, carpet frame, plot, ISO, axo, view. So it's sort of digital envy.
Yeah. Did working on this affect any of the projects you were working on at the time?
Well,
there was a project, but I think that was earlier, wasn't it?
It was almost the same time. We came up with the idea, rather like the pin in the ground, of big solid buildings would sort of anchor this sort of dispersed field. So we tried a few times to make our buildings as big and as solid as possible. This is a technology centre in Münster, the same building 3 times. It's sort of efficient layout, very small circulation areas. It was built, so we dropped it here. That's a sort of, how is that done? It's done with acetone to print the drawings onto this page. And then we get a few more chimneys, little fragments floating up here.
What's happening with the black form that floats in at this?
I didn't know where to start.
Too many pages.
Yeah. But then it sort of gets a bit minimalist as well. The pieces,
Yeah.
there's some urban blocks.
Yeah, look at these here.
Yeah, then that becomes the horizon.
Miniature trees.
There are little figures,
Yeah.
trees on the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that was another competition for a boxing stadium on the
Right.
site of the Berlin Wall,
Yeah.
Mauer Park. That's the plan of the Mauer Park. We actually went back there to look at the site to see what it looks like now
Hmm.
recently, and we didn't win that competition.
So is this like a kind of chronology as we're
Well, it's,
scrolling through it? Are we
It's sort of
scrolling
like
through
my
it?
notebooks. It's a mixture of everything. It's
Yeah.
things notebooks have things one's reading,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this is basically projects we're working on and landscape perceptions, and forest, some precinct with poplar trees, rather sexy urban form, folded form. The plans of the boxing stadium, the roof of the boxing stadium, like a bicycle wheel, which we worked out with a Dutch engineer.
Large full stop at the
Yeah, large full stop.
Yeah.
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 But a sketchbook, Peter, would normally, you'd normally fill a sketchbook in 6 months or 9 months,
3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months on average.
Too many of them. I brought one along just to maybe to flick through, and this one is very recent, which spans from teaching a workshop in Venice to a trip to Iceland. Iceland sketches. Oh, this in Venice workshop with so Malcontentus, it lands in the middle of Iceland. Now that's one of our buildings in Korcha. That's a rendering from our young partners. What am I looking for? I'm looking for this, yeah. Volcanic landscapes in Iceland. So basically, it's basically about seeing where one is. There's a palazzo in Venice, landed in Iceland. There's some notes on. No idea actually. A quote from Ilya Zengelis. Lars Lerup sent me his book. Best regards from Lars. I look forward to your feedback.
Yeah. I had that too.
Yeah. Good.
Same as you.
Okay. He was
Text.
very efficient, Lars.
Yeah.
This is one of my early drawings, which was published in, I think, a Spanish magazine. What do you think when looking at it? So I wrote my answer. When I look at this 1977 comfortable house section, I experience a feeling of great comfort, like meeting an old and trusted friend. And so basically one's starting to reanalyze one's history.
Yeah.
Villa Malaparte pop up.
And are these very much about I mean, they're obviously about the time that you're doing them, but do you return to them?
Yeah, I use them for
later?
reference.
Yeah.
And I note at the front which books I'm reading, which helps me find things again.
Yeah.
These are not very interesting.
Do you feel your sketchbook practice has changed over the years?
I think I've become more self-conscious. I mean, and I actually do rework the pages so that they look sexy. And this is not drawing. This is photographing. This is the Klein Glienicke from Schinkel, and I really liked. I took this picture of these fake ruins that dotted around next to the casino. So basically, it's sort of ongoing research. Klein Glienicke. There's Julia and Klein Glienicke. And one discovered things there like souvenirs from Italy, which they sort of dotted on or hung on the walls in the Schinkel pavilion. Anyway, there's too much to go through every page. That was I really liked. It's a drawing from Leatherby, a night sky. I really like those stars. What else? There was something I wanted to show here. This is illustrations from this book comparing American design to Bauhaus design. This is a pencil sharpener from Raymond Loewy, streamlined design. It looks like it's designed in an air tunnel. And this is Willem Wagenfeld designing an ink bottle for Pelican ink.
Yeah.
And it's just a comparison of, it was a comment on Tom Wolfe's From Bauhaus to Our House. And he was saying that the Bauhaus invaded America, and I was saying that America already had its own style, streamlined. So, and basically, and the sketchbooks are sort of everything. This is the Haus Harnischmacher from Marcel Breuer. That's one of the book illustrations. But they're so small because they start here in the sketchbook. Yeah. But and there's 40 or 50 of those, so that would be a few more evenings, I think.
So do you constantly carry a book with you? Do you or
I try to, but I only do line drawings while sort of wandering around, and then I paint them at home at night.
Right. The long nights in Münster.
Long nights in Münster, yeah. I think the long nights in Münster are actually responsible for lots of my drawings. If we'd been in London,
you would have no escape.
Yeah, they wouldn't have happened. We would have been out on the town.
Talking about Münster, we should talk a little bit about if we have time, we should talk about the Münster Library a little bit and I guess because of the significance of that project and where it sits in. I mean, obviously we could talk about the Luxembourg Library as well, but it would be interesting to, I think to talk about the Münster Library because of, maybe it's more of a hinge between the more speculative work that you had been doing before, and then there's this major building project.
It's 35 years old.
Yes.
So
and it's a monument. I mean, it's got protected status or something, doesn't it?
Not yet.
They're working on it.
Yeah.
But we're talking to the librarians who want to soup it up as a third space, but we're resisting.
Yeah.
But it's actually adapted astonishingly well to the changing uses of the town, it feels to me.
It has adapted astonishingly well because it's so tailor-made. I mean, it's not just a hut or sort of an industrial shed or something, which you can do everything. So that's surprising for us as well. But libraries are undergoing a dramatic change because the books are disappearing. And then they think, what do we do with the space? And at best, they change it into learning space and working space where young kids can work, students. But I mean,
do they consult you in relationship to the changes?
They do. That's lucky. Yeah. But I mean, you should tell. You're friends with the director.
Okay.
About her plans.
Yeah, they have things like a library of things now, which I thought was a quote from Bruno Latour, but it basically means you can borrow a power drill for 24 hours.
Oh. Very useful.
Yes.
It's very Dutch. The Netherlands are at the front of this development.
It's filling libraries full of junk furniture, so everybody feels at home in public.
So what has happened to the books? They haven't replaced books.
Well, there's
No. The books are on the. You get information on the internet. You don't get consult books anymore, and it's ongoing. I mean, it's really.
I mean, in terms of its use as a, civic and social space within the city, how's it?
It's still sort of very much visited. I think it's 2,000 or 3,000 people every day visit it. Used by lots of students, or so school kids go to do their homework.
Yeah.
They're sometimes too loud, which is a problem for the librarians. But I think the fact that, our Luxembourg library, this one, when that opened, they had a lot more visitors than expected, because they'd just put in a free tram system in Luxembourg, so school kids could get from all over town to the National Library, and they would go and do their homework there, which I think is actually really a good thing.
Was the chief librarian pleased?
They were.
Yeah, they were
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it becomes like a public living room, and we've always
Which is
described.
so much my sensation of the Münster Library. It's
Yeah, I remember, Peter, you were talking about the kind of urban gesture, as it were, of the Münster Library. And you mentioned this idea of, that one should always visit a site at night because, it clarifies things. You see the formal relationship.
You see the morphology.
Yeah.
We can read the morphology of the space.
Yeah.
You can't read detail at night.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually, during this competition, and Julia's mother lived in Münster, we were staying with her, and we went to the site when the competition was announced. And the idea of dividing the library with an access down the middle came from a night visit. So standing there, and it's on access with a church. Well, it doesn't see the church anywhere here.
Yeah, this is very pale here, but I think there's not one building that has been carved out of the outside so much as this library. I mean, one could explain it on situ much better. But also, I mean, this is the competition drawing, I think, was it?
Just after the competition,
Just
after we'd won.
But still, I mean, we still don't believe nowadays how any jury could actually give the go-ahead to a scheme like that. It's totally crazy. It was crazy then, and it would be even more crazy today in Germany. Huh? Everything is politically correct.
And how did you get into, position or organization, from working individually, as to having the capacity to, detail and design and
To work this
build
out?
this thing? Yeah.
We had
Very few people.
4 or 5 people working on it.
Yeah.
But the city of Münster said that they're young architects. We were in our mid to late 30s. So they said, young architects, we'll give them 3 years planning time.
Right.
So we had 3 years. We spent 3 years just detailing. We taught ourselves how to detail with this building.
No, yeah, also to build up manpower. I mean, it was, in the end, it was quite a big office
Yeah.
to work on this.
Yeah, but in the end, the library fee ran out after a year and a half. So we luckily won other competitions to keep the office afloat.
It's dangerous. 3 years planning. You start thinking after 2 years, have we developed? Should we maybe change it also?
Right. Yes.
So it's,
how much did it evolve in the process?
we kept really strict
Right.
to the initial, and the city also, they wanted us to do this
okay.
this scheme.
Yeah. So the question is how important is time in this way? So Münster Library, you had 3 years. Albania, it's almost instantaneous.
A few hours.
Anyway,
Yeah.
you send the
No.
you send the image. I mean, how do you look across those? I mean, I guess there's something very refreshing about being able to work very, very quickly as well.
Yeah.
And, with a kind of immediacy. But I'm just curious how you think about that extended period of slow development of a project in relationship to.
My father, who was an engineer, had a favourite saying, which was, "Work expands to fill the time available." He was a fan of Henry Ford.
I'm wondering whether we shouldn't throw the conversation open to the audience. Does anybody have any questions? I see somebody there already. Emily.
Yeah.
Yes, go for it.
I thank you for being here. I was wondering, earlier you mentioned being more, through time, being more self-conscious about your sketchbook practices. I was curious to know how self-conscious you both have become about your own legacy, not just the sketchbook, but your whole production material, the whole archive. I know you've got this arrangement with Neil, with Drawing Matter, those batches of works that you're transferring here, but
And I should say they choose. I never know what's coming.
oh, it's like a surprise box.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but more broadly, just your take on your own legacy.
Well, I guess one's quite confident about drawing now, and one knows one can sort of put a bit of watercolor on any page in the sketchbook and it will look okay. But Julia won't let me give the sketchbooks away either,
No.
so I've got 40 so on
Well,
a long shelf on my desk.
But work-wise, we're still working.
Yeah.
You look forward. Still.
And the sketchbooks, and I've seen it with Peter, the sketchbooks are a source of active reference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I'm writing, I mean, all of my notes are in the sketchbooks.
But some architects have been very self-conscious in their whole practice, like Le Corbusier with the Fondation, and really like being strictly archiving their own work. It was in that sense that I was asking the question.
I mean, how
Oh,
much
is it?
of the legacy do you see residing in the drawings?
I see the drawings as being, and they're sort of burden as well. There's so many of them. One doesn't want to leave those that drawing matter doesn't have to our kids, because it'll be a burden for them. I mean, our daughter's a curator, but and she has her own career, but she doesn't need our stuff.
Well, it's nice if they're being seen.
Mm.
So I think that's the main thing, and that's why they're here.
Well, we do make them work very hard.
Okay, we're very grateful, Neil.
That's- Thank you, Emily. Lots of questions.
Okay, thank you. You said, I think you said when you're drawing, you were kind of thinking around the corners. Is that the phrase you used? That was great. And I was wondering on the kind of boards where there are multiple projections, how much have you kind of thought around that corner is when you kind of take another projection from a drawing? Is there some surprise in what the end result is? Or is it kind of carefully orchestrated that you've already kind of thought round that corner?
Well, I think it's resolution as much as surprise, because one knows things have to fit together sort of three-dimensionally when you get around the corner. So then, and when you come around the corner, you basically give yourself a new problem, how to join up this to that. And it's like solving a puzzle. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. I'm really, I always enjoy designing, especially small things like that, moving around and around them.
Very idiotic question, but are there particular shapes that return? I remember a conversation a long time ago where you compared a building to a submarine, and then you started with the submarine. And the pictures that we've seen on the screen, I had an association with the seating in a particular area was coffin based. I saw the kind of the shape of the First World War tank, and I saw a domino on steroids. And I was just wondering whether there are particular shapes and forms that turn.
Correct.
Well, I think what you've just done is naming the shapes is part of the design process, because one is trying to identify a character, and a shape is perhaps a potential character. We used to talk about ship shapes, but that was a little bit a sort of naughty play against conventional architectural typologies. But the idea of drawing things as an animal or as a figure, it is to condense it and to focus it.
But do you start with that original shape and then?
Well, one scribbles around, and if a shape emerges, one's quite pleased, and then one works on it further.
Please.
Thank you very much. It's a question of both. In both your drawings, you're not ignorant or sterile to people's needs and wants of choice. Julia, your drawing of the outfit and the ability to choose colour, and Peter, your choice to feature the public toilets in the water house. You know, it's the user and how they want to use the space. When you draw, do you make a conscious effort to pick up those choices by users and people when you compose your drawings?
I think one projects oneself into the drawings as a substitute user. So one is always designing domestic spaces, because they're spaces one would like to live in oneself. I think that's to do with us starting in London, where one only did interiors for a few years. This in the middle.
Thank you very much for sharing the work. I was curious about ISOs and perspectives. I have a deep love for the ISO that I cannot articulate, and it feels as if somehow being in this room that it's shared, or maybe I'm projecting. But I'm wondering, I'm wondering, because the ISO does appear so often, if you can speak a bit for what it does when you're thinking in ISO, what's happening that's a different thing than when you think in perspective. Is it a different thing?
I think the isometric it is not elastic. Perspective is elastic, because you can go in and out of the cone of vision. With the isometric, you're at a conceptually infinite distance, so you can basically you can sort of play God easier.
There's something about stretched quality of isometrical, isn't there? I mean, there's a beautiful isometric study of the interior of the Cosmos building, I think, which is on display here, which I think gets that. In fact, maybe I'll go and see if I can pick it up. Which I think gets that across well.
Maybe while Mark's underway, a little anecdote. My students at the AAA, I caused them to draw in perspective, and one of them had a cubic form really off on the side of the perspective, so it became extreme rhomboid. And we had a jury with Cedric Price, and Cedric mistook this extreme stretching for a speedboat. So we had to tell Cedric it's not a speedboat, it's a problem of geometry, or it's a result of geometry. That one, I know, it didn't follow this line with the Cosmos Street building, but that's just an isometric projection. There's Mr. Nakamura twice. It is, and it becomes the style when you blacken all the horizontal surfaces.
But do you see it as a medium in which conceptualization or the process of thought can meet representation with less tension?
And I think I did this one drawing for that scheme and didn't pursue it because it was compositionally complete and didn't allow me to get inside it. And everything here comes to the surface as a sort of Rietveld projection. And it was because it had curves in it, and curves are really difficult in isometric.
Please. No.
Thank you for that talk. I was wondering if I could perhaps ask you about the relationship of kind of sizing and ratios in your drawings, particularly picking up on whether you see notions coming through from the earlier kind of kimono studies about not only the sizing and ratios that relate to the body, but also to found objects perhaps. So I thought it was quite interesting to talk about the newspaper as an idea in it, but then also to talk about the 18-wheeler as a determinant of sizing as well. And when you're going through these drawings, whether you ever go through these processes of using an object to start with and then size things proportionally or similarly, whether it is as you draw just something that comes naturally. that one form is similar to another or is completely different to another, and then it just feels right.
I don't think we have any sort of standard scales or measuring devices. I think basically each project is worked through on its own merits, and our genre is very unsystematized.
The newspaper, was it referring to this one, to the Nakamura drawing?
No, to the
To your
kimono.
To the kimono, yes, it's totally without any purpose. It just seemed right. I mean, looking at the figure and
it was to hand. The Sunday Times was to hand.
It was to hand. And when you sort of cut the fabric, you need something, you know, what do you call it?
A template.
Template.
Yeah, so that was the template, and it was the easiest to have. So there's no deeper meaning to it.
But it's about expediency, I think, sort of making it up as you go along.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some questions at the back.
Okay, on you go.
Sorry, thank you. You described your drawing practice in the beginning of the talk as a sort of converging of two thoughts of very precise drawing and then also very atmospheric drawing, the sort of you two coming together. That was very beautiful. I'm kind of wondering if that's still the departure point for both of you when you're talking about your drawings, or if that's sort of changed and you've internalized that discussion and it's sort of evolved.
I think I've learned Julia's exactitude, so I mean I can basically switch from one language to another. There's a very beautiful set of essays by Italo Calvino for the millennium, where he described his writing method. He described exactitude as when he sort of focuses down, throws things overboard, and gets to a really exact line of thought. And at a certain point, he can't move forward, and he changes languages and moves to what he called multiplicity, where you sort of pile in the references, and that sort of gets him to the next stage. But then that sort of expands and expands until it becomes encyclopedic, and you have to do the filtering of exactitude again. I think that's, I felt a great empathy with that about my own design method when I read it. And we always say we both have the star sign Libra, which is sort of one swinging from one to the other.
Oh yes, and the same birthday, so this is kind of some alter ego here.
I mean, in a way, it's about finding something that works in a situational way, in a moment, or and making some kind of judgment in relationship to that. So, like in the drawing we're looking at in a minute with the newspaper as well, there was a. I mean, this idea of the Cosmos building being a building without a program, effectively, and so what do you do? And the use of the formatting of the newspaper page, as a way of as something that one could work with, I suppose, in that situation. And so, some things are probably more productive than others, but there's something about the judgment in a certain situation of, so things are to hand, but some things turn out to be particularly interesting to work with.
It's sometimes nice to found the object, the found object, sort of.
Exactly. Yeah.
You see it and you discover it, and then you make something from it.
Yeah.
Arthur, you had a question.
It could be very unexciting, but just as you were showing your sketchbooks, there are so many things cut up and stuck in, and then I was looking all around and I realised that I don't think we have many or any things that are collaged by you. But do you ever kind of, in the process of composing stuff, because you've got lots of like the character sketches for the Ninja House layout and the hand boy puppetry sketches, but are there ever moments where you kind of cut out pastel drawings as you
I don't think, or I don't consider myself a collagist, because to do a collage you have to have ready-mades to put together, so they're a bit too off the shelf for me.
The sexy staircase is the only thing I can think of.
Yes, this was a student project which I explained to Mark. Should I explain it?
Well, if you feel up to it.
You know, when I arrived at the AA, we did a project with Piers Goff, and the program was to design a sexy staircase. So Jenny Lowe and myself, who both just arrived from Australia, we went and bought a little step ladder and painted it pink. And then we got a cardboard box and we lined the inside of the cardboard box with porno photos from a porno magazine. And we cut a hole in the bottom, and when you climbed the staircase and put your head in the box, it was a sexy staircase. But I think we just arrived in London and just become aware of conceptual art, and that was perhaps our misreading of it.
I hope you still have it in Münster.
I have a little drawing of it, yes.
The black collection.
Actually, it was collaged, and the collage came off. It became unglued. That's the reason why I'm nervous about collages. Oh, actually, at the AA, I had a job to earn some money. There was a big archigram exhibition at the ICA, and this was the early 70s, and the archigram collages were done in the 1960s. And so they employed some of us students to re-glue on all the figures on the archigram collages, which had fallen.
Did you move them around a bit?
I don't think we had that much leeway. We were very much controlled. And Roland Penrose, who was the director of the ICA, then came and popped his head into our workshop and sort of to check on what we were doing to make sure we weren't taking license with archigram. And the glue one used then was called Calgum. You got it all over your fingers.
Yeah,
I think that's maybe why I have an aversion to collage.
There was something there, yes.
I was really struck by how presentational your sketchbook was, and how almost like self-conscious your sketchbook was, and how self-conscious in a way that maybe while it was made, you were aware of how you were going to show it to other people. Whereas a lot of the drawings on the walls, or that drawing of the sort of newspaper house, seems like you're like inside of the process, figuring it all out, and then maybe you come out, and then we can all look at it together, in a way, if that makes sense.
I think you're right, and you've called me out there. I mean, I am aware that the sketchbooks will be shown. Neil's just found one here, which is very, very early, which was before I was aware that I had an audience. So, and those are genuine. They're not sort of fabricated self. But then we published a sort of fake sketchbook with moleskin of drawings from my sketchbooks. So, and you could buy a moleskin sketchbook full of Peter Wilson drawings. Yes. And from that moment on, I was aware that I was producing something publishable. And I really like the composing of different sketches, or the editing of a sketchbook to make a published journal.
So then but in that process, they then have a slightly different role in the work.
Well, in the process of publishing it, or for the moleskin, there was one put titles on drawings and put them together thematically, whereas these ones are just simply for my own reference. So this is the Arne Jacobsen Town Hall in Aarhus in Denmark, one of our favourite buildings, one of our major references for the Münster Library. But this is sort of Bolles and Wilson unplugged. Yeah, and they're tiny, tiny sketches. Whereas, yeah, you're absolutely right. These ones are sort of manicured and composed. Yeah.
Julia, what is your, I mean, does Peter share the sketchbooks with you when his ideas are developing, or? I mean, so they're an instrument of dialogue between the two of you.
Certainly, they're documenting our dialogue as well. Like if we talk about it, then these things get come in there. So, yes, yeah, and so they're sort of ongoing, and they're, yeah.
So there is, there's an audience at least of Julia, even in the earlier sketchbooks.
Well, the earlier ones, and Julia was busy with our kids then. I don't think she had time to look.
Yeah, the early ones, yeah, I don't know them. No, they're totally new to me.
Anybody else?
From the summer school, when you come and teach at the summer school here, what are you trying to impart to the students? Are you presenting your work and saying this is what you can do, or are you trying to enlighten some people?
I think I feel very guilty actually. I think I'm leading them up the garden path, because the drawings that you see around here, and they, if they go into architecture, will never in their whole career be asked to do drawings like that. But one's trying to sort of seduce them with images, so that they think, well, they can see that architecture has some dimension that maybe they could find their way with.
Well, I mean, Peter is being too diffident. He's actually wonderful at making these presentations to the students. And honestly, Peter, it's enough that they go away and try to draw. That's
That would be good.
I should just say, I was telling somebody earlier in this anecdote that when Peter last came to talk, he was there with the students and the sketchbooks. He was very happy to let me pass around the early sketchbooks, but he wouldn't let the current sketchbook out of his hands.
Okay.
Then about, I mean, in terms of teaching architecture today or architectural training, I mean, what, you know, to both of you, because Julia, you've been very involved in Germany and that as well. I mean, what do you think that should look like? You know, on one hand, you're frustrated by the lack of capacity of some of the people in the office to draw something by hand. But I mean, do you think in terms of, obviously drawing is training with thinking as well, and what does an architectural curriculum look like, do you think, Mark?
You were the administrator.
I'm what? I'm the administrator.
Yeah. You would dean of a school.
Don't literally tell me what an architecture curriculum looks like now. But I mean, in terms of if we were, what would we like to see? What's important?
My teaching was always very one-to-one. So one was talking to an individual person and trying to draw out their personality. Mm-hmm. But it was absolutely exhausting, and I could only do it at the scale of an AA unit with 10 or 15 students. I found doing larger workshop with lots of assistants really frustrating.
It gets more difficult because you can't afford to have this one-to-one conversation anymore. And they're all literate on drawing on the computer, and they're fantastic.
But they're not literate in terms of references, because if you mention a name, they've punched it into their screen. They've seen one image, a really bad image that some idiot has put into the internet, and they think that's it.
It's also a problem, yeah.
But they have no depth of reference. I find that with people in the office, and I often sort of stay a bit later in the office and chat with the kids working on competitions. And I'm just so frustrated by how they access information.
You give them books from your own library, just books, look through it and read it and all.
We have another question from the floor. I think that probably will be the last one.
So you use the word exactitude a lot of times in this conversation. And I was sort of just thinking, as part of this conversation that's just been had about like teaching nowadays and practice and the difference between sort of when you were studying and now the time that I'm sort of practicing in now. I remember reading the Exactitude sort of essay by Calvino, and there's one moment where he tries to offer like vagueness as an opportunity to sort of counter the exactitude as like an important sort of literary device, right? And then it turns out that vagueness and exactitude, they are both necessary. Like vagueness is important for exactitude to exist. And for me, some of your most compelling drawings, or the ones that I feel moved most by, are where there are sort of the testing out scribbles of like line weights and the materials you're using around the page. And there's elements that sort of don't really seem like they belong, but they absolutely are essential for the atmosphere almost. And then to go back to this idea of like looking at a building, visiting a site at night, and the sort of blurriness and vagueness that exists within that experience. I'm wondering if in sort of the world of practice and education today we need a bit more vagueness in terms of to counteract this exactitudes in the sense of like the equipment we use, like the computer, you know, it's very exact in some ways, but also it's weirdly sort of scaleless in other ways. In fact, on CAD, you know, there is no scale until you print it. And I'm just wondering what you sort of think about vagueness then within this context as a way forward.
And I fully support what you said. I'm all for radical vagueness. Or revolutionary vagueness.
Yeah.
But that comes only after a century of exactitude.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's true. I mean, it's quite hard to approach something in a gentle way. That everything, you know, is a line drawn on a computer or digitally is immediately so absolute. And you know, to kind of approach something in a slow way or work one's way into something, you need other techniques, I suppose. And I think that kind of goes back to, thinking about how education works and its kind of process of thinking with material things and through one's, you know, and what kind of thinking we're doing as we're, I think any kind of, you know, thinking is always in a dialogue with things that we're making and seeing as well. And, you know, when we, I think no matter how capable we are, whatever we draw, whatever we do is not exactly what we, you know, had conceptualized to begin with, and there's something within that already. But when you draw a line on the computer, it's pretty much exactly what you expected, you know. And I suppose digital techniques of verisimilitude, you know. So I mean, if you print a model, for example, I think there's very little to be discovered in it because it's just reproducing the kind of information. It's not going through any kind of translation or transformation. So.
But in the end, there's architecture, not the drawing, but architecture. And you have a pile of bricks, no? And you are meant to build a wall. So you can either have lots and lots and lots of bricks, and you have this sort of hill kind of wall, or you need some order and some precision to actually to stack them. So you have a wall that might be 3 meters high and
You're thinking of the Serpentine Pavilion.
yeah, that's a nice exercise. So the question is, what is vagueness in architecture? And because you're dealing with things that have to be precise in the end, and one can talk about the vagueness of spaces, you know, a space that leaves a lot open for the user, etc., and how to achieve that.
But I think then also is interesting is when you said about the library in Luxembourg, the fact that it has an ability to adapt and change is because it was so precise in its initial construction and like for a particular purpose, right? That now it has, because it was so exact, it now has an ability to take on perhaps some form of a vague, murky future, an unknown future.
Yeah, but the library in Luxembourg is huge. It's just one big terraced reading room. And what is it called by Mies? Make it big enough, then everything fits.
Yeah, yeah. It's what me said to Sharon.
Okay, so something like that.
But vagueness might also be thought of as sort of part of the process. So you get to something precise, but it gives a possibility of thought. You know,
maybe a thought. So is a displaced fragment of exactitude vagueness, and so it gets back to collage.
It's a bit like Julia's kimono, because I was thinking that. Was it ever made, or did it stay?
It was.
Wow.
It still exists.
Of course.
And I was thinking of
Jenny
the
has
genius
gone to
of
Australia.
presumably somebody, who invented the broadsheet. It is related to the body, because when you open it, there's no point making it half a metre bigger. So that, and presumably there were a lot of, and that's the way of something starting off as a sort of idea, and then becoming something very exact, and then that exactitude is used to develop an idea that was definitely not part of making broadsheets. And so that is only with the human imagination.
It becomes used
giving
as
it
a rim.
It's like giving it a go as opposed to the end result. As opposed to aim at the end result before you even
Absolutely.
sort of pin it down.
Julia, Peter, Mark, thank you very, very much. That was wonderfully stimulating. I think I should draw it gently to a close, but if people want to linger for a little while and look at the exhibition, they're fantastically welcome. And I should just say that Peter, very wonderfully, Julia, are you going to come tomorrow afternoon to walk around the exhibition?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Peter, at least, is coming back at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon and is going to walk us through the exhibition. And Silvana from the AA is going to do a similar exercise on Sunday at 3 o'clock. And you're all welcome to come back for that as well. Or instead, whichever works. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.